We are talking about sound devices at the moment, and very closely related to the sound devices that we've done, like alliteration and assonance and consonants and onomatopoeia. We have rhythm, we have rhyme, we have repetition, and we have refrain. And all of these devices actually have a lyrical effect in the poem, and they work very closely together with the other sound devices. So we have learned that sound devices work hand in hand with figures of speech. So we're going to start here and see how the others come into play here. So sound devices work hand in hand with other figures of speech. If we look at an example here from Anthem for Doomed Youth, look at the following. Only the monstrous anger of the guns, only the stuttering rifle's rapid rattle can patter out their hasty orisons. So we hear that the rifles are angry, so can you see that we have personification here? And now personification here work hand in hand with other sound devices. For instance, where is it now? Stuttering, the rifle's rapid rattle. Can you see that? And how that alliteration is really also part of onomatopoeia. Rifles, rapid rattle. Think of rattle. It has an onomatopoeic effect. And we've got rapid rattle. So we also have assonance working together here. So sound devices work hand in hand with things like personification and metaphor and so forth. So what is the effect, the cumulative effect then, eventually? The sound devices help the readers to have an auditory effect, to also hear what the actual figure of speech evokes, the image that is evokes, and it brings the sound to it, you see? And they helped develop very strong visual images. In other words, the visual image then even become stronger, right? And this reinforces the mood, right? The mood is a very busy mood there in wartime, where the rapid rattle of the rifles, you get this tat 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 of the rifles, and there's a lot of noise going on the battlefield. So there's this mood that's being reinforced of the battlefield and the tone of the literary piece. So all of this happens together. And in the same way as that happens, the devices rhyme and rhythm also play their part. If we go back there, we can find instances in that very same example. So it's part and parcel of everything working together. So they work hand in hand with figures of speech, such as the personification there, other sound devices, as we said, like onomatopoeia, alliteration, and they do evoke. The rhyme and the rhythm, they evoke emotional responses eventually within the reader. And remember, this is called the mood, how it makes you feel. And rhyme and rhythm play no small part in creating this mood. And they also reinforce the meaning. So look at this and let's look at this and see whether we can find a rhyming words. You've got not in the hands of boys, but in their eyes shall shine the holy glimmers of goodbyes. This, of course, is still part of Anthem for Doomed Youth. The pallor of the girl's brows shall be their pall. Not rhyming there. Their flowers, the tenderness of patient minds, and each slow dusk a drawing down of lines. So we've got eyes, minds. This is not the beginning of the poem, but in this extract we can say, we can call this A, and we call this A, and then we call that B and B. Of course, it will not be the same if we take the whole poem, because we'll start from the beginning. But you understand what I mean. The first rhyming pair we've got here is eyes and buys, and then we've got minds and blinds, leaving Paul aside. So we've got the rhyme here that actually reinforce the meaning. So the pallor of the girl's brows shall be their pall. So look at the eyes and the goodbyes that are sort of linked by the rhyme. In the eyes of the girls, the girlfriends that stay behind when the soldier is dead, you will see the goodbyes, the glimmer of goodbyes in their tears, right? Goodbyes. And the minds, in the minds of the people that stay behind, the family, they are waiting for these soldiers to come back. And they draw down the blinds. If you draw down the blind, it actually means that you understand, you realize that the person is dead. If you open up the blinds, you think he's still alive and he's going to come back. So rhyme actually, they link words, right? For a reason. So we're still on rhyme. Look at the following one. Ah, sunflower, weary of time, who countest the steps of the sun, seeking after that sweet golden clime where the traveler's journey is done. Now, I want you to note, especially here, we've got an A, and we've got an A, and we've got a B, and we've got a B. And remember what I said previously about sound devices. It's not really about the actual letter. It is about the sound made. So the sun and done, can you see that they rhyme? Because the sound is the same. And then time and climb, of course, rhyme. Then we've got another example. We've got two roads diverged in a yellow wood. Sorry, I couldn't travel both. And be one traveler. And long I stood, and then looked down one as far as I could, and to where it bent in the undergrowth. So we've got wood, and we've got could, and we've got stood. All right? So those are linked. He was in the wood. There he found the two roads diverging. There he stood, and he waited, and he made a decision. And he thought for as long as he could. So those words are linked. And then we've got the B. I couldn't travel both. And they were bent in the undergrowth. Can you see? Once you do the poem and you get to the actual prose and meaning of the poem, where we can paraphrase and say this is what the poem is about, you will also be able to link the rhyme and so forth, because apart from the lyrical quality that it gives to the poem, remember that many poems are lyrical. Most poems are lyrical because they're about emotions, and also they are song-like. They are like lyrics, and thus we have the rhyming here. So, but also it has this linking function. So try and ask yourself, why are certain words linked through rhyme, right? Now we talk about something different. It's not rhyme, it is called rhythm, and in poetry it's also called meter. Now, rhythm or meter has to do with the number of syllables in a line. Remember, a word might have 2 syllables or 3, recurrent. Do you understand? 3 syllables. It can be 2 or 3 or so syllables, or 1. So, and then in a line, if you add up all the syllables, how many syllables do you get? Meter has to do with that, the number of syllables, and it has to do whether they are stressed or unstressed. And we indicate stressed like that, and we indicate unstressed like that in meter. So the stressed syllables are emphasized. Can you see? The stressed syllables are emphasized. The unstressed syllables are downplayed, right? So the unstressed syllables are said more softly. La, da, 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 da. In that case, it's ta, 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 ta. There are so many kinds of meter. I cannot touch on every one today. Perhaps you can go and do a bit of research. I'm going to look at the most common ones. The meter that you are sure to encounter in your studies at school is iambic pentameter. Iamb simply means, in terms of the stressed and unstressed, it's da, 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 where the first syllable is unstressed and the second one is stressed. And that there are 10 of those syllables in a line. So there are 5 da, da. Do you understand? Da, 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 da. So we'll have 5 of those and we call them feet. A ta ta is a foot, and 5 of those make up 10 syllables, so that's pentameter. And it's iambic because it's the opposite. This is trochee. It's the opposite. It's first that one and then that one, right? So you're going to meet this in your studies. So 10 syllables. Let's see. And I'm going to unstress and stress now. But if the while I think on thee, dear friend, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 feet. Can you see that? 10 syllables. First unstressed, then stressed. All losses are restored and sorrows end. Once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 syllables, 5 feet. Now, while we're here, and I think I can digress just 1 second, please have a look at what happens here, and Shakespeare often does that, and other poets do. For them to maintain a certain meter, they sometimes contract words like restored. They would contract restored. They will do that. And sometimes they will actually put an emphasis on the ed, and they will want you to pronounce it as restored. Do you understand? So there's an extra syllable. So just keep this in mind. In many cases, 2 words are contracted to make it one, so that you can throw away the 1 syllable and you could get your iambic pentameter, for instance. So just keep that in mind. I just thought about it now. You will find, and that's a technique that Shakespeare also uses in his plays, you'll very often find that at the end of a scene, remember that a play is for the stage. And when the actor stands there and says these final words of the scene, you will more than often see that it is said in iambic pentameter. It sort of marks the end of a scene. So in this case, it's from Macbeth, and where Lady Macbeth rings the bell. In other words, she's ready for King Duncan. He can come up and now kill the king. So Macbeth is already feeling guilty, and he says, "Hear it not, Duncan, for it is the knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell." Okay, hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell. Iambic pentameter. Fine. You will also now and then come across iambic tetrameter and iambic trimeter. Now, this one, the tetrameter, has, whereas pentameter had 5 feet, 10 syllables, right? the tetrahedra has 4 feet and, of course, 8 syllables. And the trimeter has 3 feet and of course, 6 syllables. And they all are iambic, in other words, ta-ta, ta-ta. Do you understand? Ta-ta. So, because I could not stop for death, 1, 2, 3, 4, tetrameter. Can you see? He kindly stopped for me. He kindly stopped for me. He kindly stopped for me, right? Can you see it's only 3 feet and then 6 syllables? Now we've got the 4 again. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. So we've got the 4 and the 3 following each other. And he does that for a certain rhythm and for a certain feel, a lyrical effect in the poem. Right. Then another thing that poets use is, of course, repetition, where certain words are repeated. And whenever you see, and that's one thing you have to look out for in poetry, if words are repeated, you must underline it in a certain color or somehow highlight it, because it means something. It will always mean something. Either the repetition of the same word or a repetition of the word and its synonym, for instance, that sort of gives you the same concept, or an image that gets repeated and repeated. There's always a reason for it, right? So in the sonnet 43 of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, you must have heard about this one. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. She repeats the word I love thee 8 times, right? So why does she do that? So it adds a certain rhythm to the poem, and it gives it a kind of firmness, as though I want to reiterate and reiterate. She says, remember, let me count the ways. I love thee so, I love thee so. This is how I love thee. This is how I love you. She gives us aspects of her love, and always starting with I love thee this way, etc. So what it does, it reiterates the adoration that the speaker feels for her loved one, and the firm message also gives us, this firm idea of her love. Also, some repetition, you'll often find it, and you must look within the poem as to why you think it is repeated. We've given a reason there. So look at, because I do not hope, this typical Eliot, T.S. Eliot, why should? Why should? And we've got because. Can you see? Certain phrases and words are repeated. And then when you do read the poem and you do try to make sense of it, ask yourself, why repeat these words? It's usually to emphasize or to reiterate an idea. We're not going into so much detail there because we still have refrains to deal with. In the villanelle, for instance, it's a form which form of poetry that requires a refrain, and later on you'll hear more about that. But a refrain is just this one line. It's very lyrical. You'll find it in songs often, and you also find it in poetry that certain lines are repeated and repeated again and again, and it becomes a refrain, right? Like fa la 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 la, fa la 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 la, fa la la, just to show you, it has that rhythmic and musical effect. It's either words or lines. Well, actually, in the case of refrains, it is either a line or lines that are repeated, as in the lyrics of a song. let's have a look at sound devices in lyrics. So lyrics are just like the words of a poem. It's the same thing. That's why many poems are made into lyrics of a song. People make it a song. And most poetry is lyrical in nature. So it stands to reason, same rules apply. So, but sometimes you overlook the fact that the lyrics in songs are actually just like poetry, and they also have alliteration. They have all these things. They have consonants. They have figures of speech. So when you view the lyrics, in other words, if you download lyrics, for instance, and you view the lyrics, you'll see the alliteration, the assonance, you'll see the onomatopoeia, all of these sound devices that are so active in poetry as well. So, but when you listen, it's more often than not, what sticks in your head is the rhythm, the ta 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 ta, the rhyme, right? The repetition and the refrain. Those are normally the earworms that you can't get out of your ears, right? So a good exercise might be for you to go and download the lyrics of your favorite song, and just for fun. You don't have to overdo it, but to see what you can find. How are they similar to poetry? Until next time.